Almost everyone can agree that the shootout is sorta controversial. Some fans think that the shootouts are fun and add excitement to the game, while other fans believe that a skills competition shouldn't decide the final outcome of a game, which is fair, but nonetheless, the shootout has provided us with many memorable moments. Some, like Datsuk's, are memorable for all the right reasons, and some are just remembered because they were plain awful. Take Dennis Weidman for example, who literally lost his balance in a game against Chicago.
Fakes it in! He got knocked down by the goaltender. He had a wide open net. Actually, he just lost his balance.
There are many other embarrassing shootout attempts we can go over, but I'll show some of my personal favorites, such as Devin Setaguchi's miss and flop,
Carey Price can win the game.
Patrick Eves' header,
Eves fakes and stumbled and fell, and never did get a shot away.
and Alexander Semin's fall into Marty Turco, losing his team the game.
Turkle. Semin strolling in, stumbles and got too close to the netminder, who makes the save.
Like these moments I just went over, there have been so many other embarrassing moments throughout NHL history that deserve to be talked about, such as one of many in today's video that cost a team the series in the postseason. 1979 was an important year for the Montreal Canadiens, as a lot was on the line. Montreal previously won the past 3 Stanley Cups, so a shot at the coveted dynasty was at stake once entering the 1979 postseason. Now, enter the Boston Bruins. We talked about how heated the rivalry was between these two in last week's video, but if you didn't catch it, basically, this was when both teams were at their peak. Boston, forming their infamous Lunch Pail Gang, was recently defeated in the Stanley Cup Finals by Montreal in both 1977 and 1978, so they were hoping to finally get their revenge against their rival club. Games 1 and 2 belonged to Montreal, but Boston would claw their way back into the series, eventually forcing a decisive Game 7. And this was where things got a bit awkward. Boston would take a 3-1 lead on the Canadiens going into the third, and all signs were pointing to a Boston win. But 2 goals by Mark Napier and Guy Lapointe would tie the game up at 3. Boston would once again go up by 1, retaking the lead. That is, into a costly mistake, would change the entire outcome of the series. With 2:34 remaining in the third, the Bruins would be caught with too many men on the ice, giving the Bees a penalty. Montreal wasted no time, and immediately sent out their top power play guys, Guy Lafleur being one of them, and with 1:14 left to go, Guy Lafleur would receive a pass at the top of the circle, burying the tying goal. After the game, Cherry elaborated on the costly blunder, stating to Globe and Mail, quote, "It was my fault. The guy couldn't have heard me yell." Cherry also explains that, quote, "I grabbed 2 other guys trying to go over the boards that would have made 8 on the ice. Might as well have let them go." Montreal would advance and would later capture their 4th consecutive Stanley Cup, making Cherry's blunder look even more foolish. Ironically, this isn't the only embarrassing moment to happen to Boston that year, as during the 79 regular season, Mike Milbury did this.
I wouldn't want to re-describe that scene. It was just a wild one.
Imagine watching this unfold live, seeing Mike Milbury and the entire Bruins team entering the stands to fight the opposing team's fans. Well, this all started after the game was over, when Bruins Al Seckard decked off Nilsson. A scrum ensued, they exchanged words, and that was all. That is, until a Rangers fan took a rolled up newspaper and hit Bruins Stan Johnson with it, causing enforcer Terry O'Reilly to jump into the stands, going after the fan. And soon, other Rangers and Bruins players followed suit, causing all hell to break loose. Peter McNabb went after a fan, and Milbury, thinking his teammate was in trouble, would proceed to beat the fan numerous times with his own shoe. Once he had his say, he then threw the shoe onto the ice, eventually earning himself the nickname Mad Mike Milbury. Although this moment may seem absolutely hilarious, it was also a huge embarrassment to the league at the time. A month after the brawl was over, NHL President John Ziegler would suspend O'Reilly for 8 games and McNabb and Milbury for 6. And because of the massive brawl, the NHL immediately raised the height of the glass to prevent any further incidents similar to the event. This wouldn't be the last time players would be at war with the fans, however, as even though they raised the glass, we still have other player versus fans moments that have occurred, such as Rob Ray fighting a fan that hopped onto the ice, and the infamous Ty Domi battle in which he fights a fan that purposely fell into the penalty box. Mascots have had their fair share of embarrassing moments as well, so why not include them? First, you have to talk about this. Last week, we talked about why this occurred, but I'll explain it once again. Calgary had a huge lead on their rivals in Edmonton, and Flames fans were making sure the Oilers knew they were down bad. Eventually, Flames mascot Harvey the Hound decided to join in on the fun, and attempted to taunt Oilers head coach Craig McTavish, but Coach T wasn't having it that night, and would yank the tongue right out of Harvey's mouth, showcasing it to the fans before tossing it into the stands. Later that night, Harvey would come back onto the ice with a red scarf in his mouth, claiming it as his new tongue, making Flames fans explode in laughter and creating a memorable moment that will never be forgotten. Next, let's head to San Jose, as in a game in 1999, SJ Sharkey would attempt to come down onto the ice on a rope from the ceiling, but we all know how that would turn out.
And now with these two teams trying to get going here tonight, we've got a mascot stuck in midair.
It looks like they're lowering another rope to him. And maybe he'll try and cut the rope he's in and just slide down on that free rope that was just handed down to him from the rafters.
Sharkey was supposedly stuck in midair for an entire hour before finally getting to safety and successfully coming down. As funny as it is, however, if you're scared of heights like me, you'd be doing anything but laughing at the moment. Finally, for this last mascot mishap, we have to go full on Johnny Cash, as Ducks mascot Wild Wing literally fell into a ring of fire. And as if having your mascot fall into fire wasn't bad enough, let's go back to the Ducks inaugural ceremony, as well, let's just say if you were flipping the channels and stumbled upon this performance, you'd assume you were watching Disney on Ice rather than a hockey game.
Hockey fans, it is with deepest pride and greatest pleasure that we welcome you tonight to the pond. We invite you to relax and take your seat as the city of Anaheim, the National Hockey League, and the Mighty Ducks celebrate a new era in sports entertainment.
Also, they decided to throw in some random rock star they called Iceman into the mix mid-ceremony just to make things a bit weirder, and some say the guitar has yet to be played to this day. Luckily, the Ducks were no longer owned by Disney come 2005, so they'll never have to worry about something like this occurring ever again. As embarrassing as these mascot moments may be, nothing is more embarrassing than blowing an entire playoff run away thanks to putting the puck in your own net. We've talked about this before, so we'll go over it again quickly, but in the second round of the 1986 playoffs, the two rival clubs, the Flames and Oilers, were set to face off in a pivotal Game 7 for both sides. For Calgary, it would mean finally taking down the dominant Oilers and making a run at the cup, while for Edmonton, they had their 3-peat on the line. Calgary would go up 2-0 early in the second, but Edmonton being Edmonton, quickly tied it up at 2 apiece. 5 minutes into the third, the puck would be chipped onto the stick of Oilers defenseman Steve Smith, who was granted an early birthday gift as he scored the eventual game-winning goal for the Calgary Flames. Smith attempted to pass up ice, but instead, the puck sort of got passed diagonally into Grant Fuhr's own cage without Fuhr knowing where the puck even was. Edmonton still had 15 minutes to tie things up, but Mike Vernon went off for the remainder of the game, making Steve Smith the hero for the Calgary Flames and the biggest villain in the city of Edmonton. Although Calgary would later lose in the Stanley Cup final and Edmonton would pick up right where they left off, Steve Smith will forever be known in infamy for pressing the pause button on the Oilers dynasty, throwing away a chance at 3 in a row. Speaking of throwing, Marc Bergevin knows a thing or two about throwing, as in the 2000 playoffs in a game between the Sharks and Blues, Marc helped create this thing of beauty.
Suter into the zone, centering pass, gloved out of midair by Bergevin. How long did he have that puck in his glove? Now the puck's in the net! The puck is in the net!
I think Marc Bergevin may have thrown that puck into his own goal.
At this point, St. Louis had a 1-0 lead on the Sharks and were in the midst of killing a penalty assessed to Al McGinnis. Sharks Gary Sutter threw a pass over to Mark Ricci, but it was intercepted Odell Beckham Jr. style by Marc Bergevin. Bergevin would then, of course, do the smartest thing possible and would proceed to toss the puck into his own net, helping assist the Sharks and tying the game. What a nice guy. What wasn't nice, however, was that the Sharks would eventually win the game and the entire series, defeating St. Louis in round 1. As heartbreaking as that must have felt for Bergevin, imagine how Chris Phillip feels when talking about his costly own goal that cost the Ottawa Senators a Stanley Cup.
I think with the lack of stoppages here in the second. Oh, it's lost by Phillips and into the net! My goodness!
This is a game the Senators have to win, as Anaheim was up 3-1 in the series, and Ottawa could have been back within 1 of tying the series. Anaheim led the game 2-0 until Danny Alfredsson tied things up. Then, 4 minutes later, disaster struck. Chris Phillips would try to retrieve a puck from behind the net, but pressured by Niedermayer, he had to make a move, and in pure distress, tried to throw the puck to the right, but the puck would get stuck in Sens netminder Ray Emery's skate, being pivoted into the net, giving the Ducks a 3-1 lead. Alfredsson would score again, but the Ducks afterwards completely took over, winning 6-2 and hoisting the Stanley Cup. But because Alfredsson scored the second goal, Phillips' error would be counted as the game winner, gifting the cup to Anaheim. Nothing is as worse as an own goal resulting in losing a Stanley Cup, but you all know what moment we have to end this video on, so let's not waste any time.
That's the most embarrassing thing I've seen on the National Hockey League ice.
This is the moment that unfortunately is most associated with the career of Patrick Stefan. But before he missed a wide open net, Stefan was once actually one of the most highly sought after prospects in the NHL. The 1999 draft was horrendous, and Stefan was the headliner of the class. He was a projected #1 overall pick and was a must-have by numerous scouts league-wide, as they believed he was the next superstar. The Atlanta Thrashers would land the first overall pick and would of course select Stefan, but sadly, he never panned out. And no, it's not because he missed the net, as he did so during his final year in the league. But Stefan did suffer with injury problems that eventually made him fail at the NHL level. Anyways, back to the miss. Edmonton was down and pulled the net to gain the extra attacker. Stefan would skillfully steal the puck and was wide open for the empty net, completely missing by about a foot, falling on his behind. Because he fell, it allowed Ales Hemsky to pick up the puck, get across ice, and score the game-tying goal. Although Dallas would eventually win in overtime, Stefan's career would forever be tarnished thanks to this embarrassing moment. As seen in today's video, one mishandle or debacle could lead to your entire image being tainted. But what most fail to realize is that almost every player has made a costly mistake, and that's what makes the NHL as perfect as it is, as all it takes is one pass, steal, or even a wide open net to become infamously known for generations for all the wrong reasons.